Getting Started, Finding Forms and Information at the Nidus website, www.nidus.ca. This presentation provides basic information. It is not legal advice. The purpose is to show you where to find representation agreement forms on the Nidus website and learn what other resources are available. The name Nidus is a Latin term for nest, a symbol of support and safety. Nidus is a nonprofit charitable organization established in 1995 by other community groups who were involved in a grassroots law reform of adult guardianship in British Columbia. Nidus was set up to be a resource and hub for expertise on representation agreements and related BC legislation. BC's Representation Agreement Act that came out of the grassroots law reform is innovative and has received international recognition. First of all, let's look at the context for what we call personal planning. On this chart, you'll see we have estate planning, which is about making arrangements for after death. But it's not all about after death. We need to put the spotlight on personal planning, which is about making arrangements for while you are alive, for times that you need support in case of incapacity, and to plan for end of life. You'll notice under the personal planning box, we have 4 life areas. Those are the areas that need to be covered by legal documents, so you've got something in place for personal planning, and we'll be talking about that. Now, for estate planning, the key legal document is the will, and most of us know about that. But we're going to learn about the legal documents that apply to personal planning and where to find those. BC legislation for personal planning is based on age. You must be 19 years or older to make personal planning documents. The age of adulthood in British Columbia is 19. And then there are capability requirements. There are different legal documents with different capability requirements. So let's look at the definition of capability. Well, the traditional definition of capability, and most BC adults will fit into this, is that you understand the nature and effect of the legal document at the time of making it. And this applies to contracts, wills, types of power of attorney, the representation agreement, section 9. Now, never mind that most of us have not read and probably couldn't promise that we understand our mortgage documents or the vehicle contract or insurance documents that we've signed, but we would fit under this traditional definition of capability. We demonstrate to others and they believe that we understand the nature and effect of the documents at the time we're making it. However, there are some people where their capability is in question. And so the law reform was about creating what we call the representation agreement under section 7, or the Re7 for short. And it has a different definition of capability. It's actually more broad because there are many ways of understanding, not just the cognitive way under the traditional definition. So the law says that people, adults, can make a representation agreement, section 7, even if they cannot make a contract, even if their capability to understand is in question. Now, the Re7 only applies in British Columbia at the present time, and it only applies to personal planning documents. And why did people work so hard on the law reform and the representation agreement section 7? And it was hard work, and it is still hard work to do the awareness raising and education. Well, the reason is that if an adult does not understand the nature and effect of the legal document at the time of making it, in other words, they don't meet that traditional definition of capability, then they're vulnerable to adult guardianship. And under adult guardianship, sometimes referred to as comitationship in British Columbia, adults lose their rights and become a non-person. So the Re7 was designed to be a legal alternative to adult guardianship for adults whose capability to understand is in question. Because citizens and community groups said, why should an adult lose their rights just to get help with decisions and managing their affairs? The Re7 is based on real life experiences, as we'll see. So let's look at the definitions and the forms that fit. So first of all, we're going to look at the traditional definition of capability and the legal documents that are available. And this applies to all of us on watching this and most British Columbians. As long as you don't wait too long, don't wait for the crisis. So here we have Gwen, who was undergoing surgery. She wanted to get her affairs in order. That's what was motivating her. John's spouse died, and he wanted to update his planning documents. And he'd also recently been diagnosed with Parkinson, so that was motivating him. But we can do it just because it's a good idea to have something in place. So you don't have to wait for something like this to motivate you. And what would you make? What do people who meet that traditional definition of capability have available to them? Well, for health and personal care matters, the representation agreement section 9 or the RA9 covers that. But please note that it is only under health and personal care. It doesn't cover any financial matters. So there's a separate document that you make to cover financial and legal affairs. And in fact, if you look at that, there are two options. You just make one. That's why there's an or. Most people would make an enduring power of attorney because it covers the most, as you can see in the diagram. Some people might determine, after some research, that they can use the representation agreement routine financial and legal powers to address their needs. They don't need all of the coverage of an enduring power of attorney. But that's something that has to be determined. In any case, you make a document to cover legal and financial affairs. And then there's the will for arrangements for after death. So those of us who meet the traditional definition of capability have 3 essential documents to make or to cover those life areas. And where can you find the representation agreement forms and more information? Go to the Nidus website and click on the middle photo or heading. So that's the one for people who understand the nature and effect of the documents at the time they're making them. We might also be helping someone who capability to understand may be in question, and we're going to look at the Re7, which has a broader definition of capability. Here's a couple of examples. Francis and Drew both had a disability from birth. They had a developmental disability. Their capability to understand the nature and effect of legal documents and contracts was in question. So if you're helping someone who has a disability from birth, or maybe an illness or injury in childhood that has affected their mental capability, then you go to the Nidus website and you click on the first photo or heading. And that will guide you to the forms and information. Maybe we're helping older adults who need the Re7 definition of capability. For example, Mary. She needed a new enduring power of attorney, but she was not considered capable to make one under that traditional definition. But she had financial legal affairs that she needed help with, and she also needed to cover health and personal care matters. Doris, on the other hand, had made an enduring power of attorney, like Mary, made it when she was capable under the traditional definition. Only in Doris's case, it was still okay. It was still fine. She didn't need to make a new one. She had it in place, but she needed to make something for health and personal care because her dementia had progressed and there was going to be a lot more need for help with those areas. And because her dementia had progressed, she didn't meet that traditional definition of capability. So she wasn't able to make the documents on that path. So Mary and Doris, if you're helping somebody like that, go to the Nidus website, click on the third photo or heading to find the Re7 forms that fit. So you'll find under the Re7 forms, you'll find one that's called Re7 All. We refer to that because it covers aspects of all 4 life areas. Not quite as much, or not quite as many authorities as can be covered under the people who meet that traditional definition, but thousands of people have used the Re7, and it's been a great alternative to adult guardianship. You'll also run across the Re7H plus P form, and that is what we use to refer to a case like Doris, for example, who already has something in place for her legal financial affairs. She made an enduring power of attorney years ago, and when she was capable of understanding nature and effect, and it's still good. But now, as her dementia has advanced, she needs something for health and personal care. So she can use the Re7 H and P. Francis also did this. You'll remember Francis from an earlier slide. Francis's financial legal affairs were actually managed by the public guardian and trustee, and that was a historical thing for Francis's situation. But she got a diagnosis of cancer, and so for sure she was going to need good access to health and personal care. And so she made the representation agreement section 7 for health and personal care, Re7H and P, so that she had representatives who could advocate for her health and personal care and could make sure her money managed by the public guardian trustee was going to help her quality of life. Just briefly, I'll tell you where to find more information on the Nidus website. If you look at the blue menu bar under information, we have fact sheets. So if you click on information, a number of topics will appear, and you click on representation agreement, and you can read about the RE7 fact sheet, the RE9 fact sheet, and more resources. Click on Get Help in the top blue menu bar. You'll find other videos. You'll find information about presentations, how to book an appointment if you want personal help. And of course, if you are ready to register, you've made your planning document and you can register it. So click on the Registry tab in the blue menu bar and select the option for instructions, and you'll find how-to instructions to guide you through using the registry. And another button or tab on the blue menu for donate. We're inviting you to help Nidus and yourself. Nidus doesn't receive funding to provide core services such as information forms or presentations. We rely on donations and modest fees for services. You get a tax receipt for your donation because we are a charity. And you'll see that in the right sidebar at our website is a button for Donate Now, where you can donate online, and you will immediately receive a tax receipt. Thank you for joining us. I hope you know where to find the forms and you can get busy making and registering your personal planning documents. And I'll say bye for now.